Wanna come up? Wanna come up? Come on. Come here. There we go. Say hi.
You're such a good girl, little girl.
You can stay, just don't eat the garbage. Anyway, hey guys, what's going on? I wanted to go and make a video highlighting some of the questions in this developer update that was with MarvelSnapZone.com. The person from Second Dinner is Glenn Jones. He's the principal game designer. There's some good questions, some silly questions, and some actually really good questions that go into the mechanics and how certain cards work. After the last video I did about how Ghost Rider works with Taskmaster, it's, I think, very important to know the mechanics of how some cards work and how they prioritize the actions that they take, and that's going to make a little bit more sense as we get further into this video. So a lot of these questions, I'll just try to give a brief analysis or answer to it, a summary of what the answer was. I already went through this before. So why didn't X-23 launch with an animation? Why not just copy Wolverine? That would be silly. Their VFX department is already kind of booked, and she has 2 claws, not 3. It wouldn't make sense using the same virtual effect. Why do Green Goblin and Hobgoblin say opponent takes control of this card, but Titania says switch sides? They're going to change that so they all match in the future. Here's a pretty good question. Could we see a rework where Captain America uses his shield to protect his cards from Shang-Chi? The developer answer is, the vast majority of Snap cards are about one thing. We try to avoid doubling up on abilities, but when we do, we like them to be strongly linked in function and identity. This design wouldn't meet that threshold, especially given the complexity it would add to one of the first cards our newest players see. When you're playing a game or trying to introduce a new game to somebody, you don't want to have these crazy, overcomplicated mechanics. That's why there's tutorial areas and things are slowly introduced to the player so they're not overwhelmed and they just say, I don't want to play this anymore. So Captain America's ability being fine, because it's not a bad ability. He's a good card. Not a great card, not a card that's going to see a lot of play, but he's still a good card. There's no need to change him. Something like this is just doubling up on armor to a point, maybe Cosmo or anything else that could destroy the cards there. And it would maybe like one-sided. Now, identity-wise, Captain doesn't use his shield to go and constantly protect his teammates or whoever he's fighting with. It's also a weapon. And that's not his abilities to defend, it's to kind of encourage, inspire, attack, and do all that stuff. So identity-wise, that wouldn't make sense. Kind of raising everybody's morale, making them stronger, that lines up with Captain America a little bit more. So I thought that was a very good question. This is another great one. Does Spider-Man care if he moves to a lane that is full? Or does he only move to a location where he can pull a card with him? Glenn says, yes, he prioritizes being able to drag an enemy if possible. So this is very important knowledge to know. Let's say you have your 3 locations and they all have space for Spider-Man to go to and you play Spider-Man in the middle. Your opponent has their left location completely full. Spider-Man, 100%, according to this, is going to go to the right lane where the enemy has space, not where you have space. So that's a very important thing to do. So now you're taking the randomness out of a card. Instead of Spider-Man going, it might go left or might go right, which one to do, now you're going to be able to actually go and say, no, he's definitely going to go from the location I'm playing him at to this other location because the opponent has that location full. That's great for planning. Will Silver Samurai discard Null if his power updates in the hand? Answer is no, because since Null's power updates in his hand, it's not going to always be the lowest if a lot of cards are destroyed. They're working on getting something done with that. I had 2 cards in Space Throne, but Dazzler didn't get a buff in that lane. Is it intended when there wasn't 4 cards? They changed this before so that it's full lanes, and they're just saying it's a bug. They're working on getting that fixed. This question is a little bit on the silly side, where if Storm, Magic, and Rhino's ability creates and or removes location, why doesn't Galactus's turn his location into the world chip? It's you're making completely changing how the card works for the same effect, and that's going to cause a lot of different complications. Plus the location doesn't need to change. His ability is already there. That's not going to change. It's kind of dumb. The community appeared to underestimate the strength of Legion before he was released, and now he's considered a very good card. Was the team surprised by this? Short answer is yes, they were. And today they actually released an update to bring him back from a 5.8 down to a 5.7, which is what he originally was a couple days before he was released. When Gambit chooses a card to destroy, is it purely random, or does he consider how many cards are in a lane? It's random. Completely random, doesn't matter. With Forge and Absorbing Man buff, Forge and Brood into Absorbing Man is growing wildly popular. Is this play pattern considered healthy for the game? Looking at your data, they don't like to just stamp out things that are happening right then. They like to give the community a chance to make decks and figure out solutions to that problem so they don't have to. What are the thoughts on alternate win conditions? They don't want to do it, at least not yet. They will explore options later on, but it seems kind of like a nice way to say no. Will we ever be able to see previews of borders on cards in the shop before we buy them? Yes, they're working on it. Are token variants ever being added? I don't understand this question. This says yes, we are working on this for new and upcoming variants. Check out our SDCC panel, so I have to check that out. Because does this just mean that they want variants to be able to be bought with tokens that aren't ultimate variants? That's the best I can think of. Do different variant styles have different weights in mystery packs? No. The reason you get a lot of pixels is because pixels are the most prevalent type of variant there is. Will I get banned for violating the TOS if I use a Windows emulator to play Snap on a Mac? No. In the daily variant shop, will there be a more consistent way for players to see newly released variants? Yes, they're working on something like that. If your MMR doesn't go down once you hit infinite, does it still go up? If you're winning, yes. When players with lower collection levels reach infinite rank, they'll be matched with people who have higher series cards. Is the team aware of this? And if so, is this by design? He just says yes, post-infinite play offers an unrestricted competitive experience. When we introduce a global leaderboard, that will be crucial to its integrity. So they're aware of it. I don't really understand if this is like, yes, they're going to do something about it. As someone who has two accounts, one is kind of low and can get to infinite, and the type of play that changes from pre-infinite to post-infinite, it's kind of drastic, but as time went on, it's not like the worst. During hot featured locations, can you separate the data from these when balancing, and do you see a meta shift during those days? The short answer is, like, they look at the data, but it's not actually really that important to them when they do a hot location or a featured location. It doesn't play that much of a part in the balancing. Do weekend missions make an impact on the data you collect? They observe it, but not really. Now, this is a great question, these next two. Why is it that if you play Scarlet Witch or the Reality Stone and it creates Death's Domain, Scarlet Witch won't die? But if you play Quake onto the middle location and it rotates an existing Death's Domain to the middle, then Quake will die? The answer is the function for tracking whether a card had been staged and resolved has an exception to hide from locations that were replaced between those two moments. This predates me by about a year. So this is a function that was at Second Dinner implemented in the game about a year before Glenn actually started working for Second Dinner. So I can't speak with certainty to why. My guess is the restricted location pool of early Series 1 made stuff like Scarlet Witch into a surprise Death's Domain or Danger Room too common. So the exception was created to protect a good experience. That sounds worthwhile, so I imagine any adjustment we'd make would line Quake up with Wanda. However, the lift to do that seems pretty heavy relative to the gains, so I wouldn't expect such a change anytime soon. So what staging to resolving means is, staging is when you play a card until it's fully resolved. So you are playing Scarlet Witch, and that's when it's staged, and that's when the exception starts. Scarlet Witch is now hiding from the game. Is this just for locations that would kill her or not? I don't know. I have to do some Scarlet Witch gameplay to really figure this out. But that's very interesting to know about this hide mechanic. Next one is also talking about Scarlet Witch. Why does Kamertage re-trigger on reveal for Storm, Magic, Scarlet Witch, or other location changing cards, but the location doesn't affect these cards in locations like Death's Domain, Luke's Bar, Quantum Tunnel, etc.? Very interesting about what's going on with this. All right. All of the locations you named trigger after you play a card here, which means that after its on reveal effect has resolved. Now, which is talking about Luke's Bar, Quantum Tunnel, and Decimane. So when you play a card there, the on reveal happens, the card is resolved, and then that location has its effect, which would kill the card, which would send it back to your hand or exchange it for something else. And that's it. Carmartage doesn't do that. It adds a bonus instance of the cards on reveal, and the bonus goes off first. So the bonus from Magic, Storm, etc. wipes Carmartage away, and then the original on reveal is still waiting to resolve. So what happens is when you play a card to Carmartage, Carmartage is saying, okay, you were an on reveal card, you're going to get a second on reveal at this location. But this bonus on reveal is going to happen first. Then, after that's done, then your on reveal is going to happen. So that's why, because the bonus already happens, and their on reveal technically hasn't happened yet until the next location is resolved. So I'm curious what if you Carmartage into something like Nowhere. I think maybe it could still go out. I'm not sure. But again, that's a very important type of mechanic to really know how it works. A lot of these rest of the questions are not too important. Do you plan on adding more cards that synergize with Sauron? Do cards like Sauron or Zero that silence cards create design restrictions? Short answer is no, they don't. They just got to make them interesting, but these cards really don't affect design don't restrict design of future cards. How does the Yoshida base treat ties to arrive, such as debris, adding multiple rocks at once? It's based off of initiative, and right now they're fixing Yoshida base. It is off of the table until they fix the mechanic working properly. Will you ever add a new keyword like on reveal, ongoing move, etc.? Maybe this year. They are looking to add new keywords, but not this year. Questions from you watching this video. Okay. Will we ever get the ability to delete variants from our collections? I have so many infinity splits and it's just taking up space. I'd like to clean them out. Short answer is they know about it. They want to do something about it. It's a low priority issue. They'll get to it at some point. Can we get a landscape mode for iPad? Maybe. I know players play against other players within the same tier. Do we also play against other players who are in the same battle number? This is specifically for Conquest. So if you're playing your first match of gold, then they're going to do everything they can to put you up against somebody else who is at the first match of gold. And the longer you wait when you're trying to find an opponent in the game, whether it's ranked or Conquest, the restrictions that Marvel Snap does for matchmaking lessen and lessen based off of the amount of time that go by from when you start looking until you actually find somebody. So what they also say is that during the Infinite Conquest, that's where the loosest restrictions are. So you're always going to go against somebody who is in the same conquest as you. If you're fighting in gold, you'll always go against someone in gold. If you're fighting in infinite, you'll always fight someone in infinite. If you are on your second fight of gold, most of the time, you are going to fight your person who's in their second match of gold. Infinite, it's looser. So if you're on your third match of infinite, you may be going against somebody who's on their last match or first match, because there's so few players in the infinite conquest compared to the other ones that they have to loosen it so you can get a good match for it. Do you plan any form of traits that would make Avengers or Fantastic Four, etc. to be in one deck and working together? They're pretty much asking if I have all the Fantastic Four people or this team in my deck, is there going to be like a group bonus? He says no, there's not. There's no bonuses for them all being out or being all in your deck at once. They are, however, wanting to add a classification of cards like Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy that can open up new mission opportunities or other possibilities. If you want to do themed type of things like that, their official Discord does host events like that, where I did get 1200 gold from one of those events. So if you want to be part of that stuff, go for it. Sometimes they give away gold. Sometimes they give away server XP or special roles. So if you want that type of challenge, that type of event, go join their official Discord. When will the Eternals join the game? They're not. At least they're not in current plans. They are not returning. Has the team considered implicating duplicate protection for the Spotlight cache random S4, S5? Short answer is they didn't really like the way the S4, S5 random was working first, and now they're doing the tokens, but it's like they're not really fully sold on that. We're thinking about what we could do to streamline it and simplify it a bit. The Spotlight cache is one of the biggest problems, is what they're doing with the Series 4, Series 5 cards. That's really it. All right, that's all the questions for the developer update. There's going to be more questions next week. I'll try to do a little bit of a series or weekly show about what these questions are, the inside of them, so you can get the good answers for the good questions and just get a real brief synopsis of the lesser questions, because who cares about some of them? Some of it is silly. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. If you did like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, share, whatever you can do to help this out. And I'll see you guys next time.